name is Jafria Morris. I'm the chief organizer of this event. This event is really a unity event of the whole entire San Francisco coming together and really saying, this is not the San Francisco that I know. This is not the moral compass that we need to embrace or subscribe to. San Francisco is a city of opportunity that changes lives. What we saw is San Francisco is a city that took lives. And we need to know this. We brought the fight here to the district attorney's office because she needs to hear from the community and know that it is not okay for her to cherry pick who can be a victim in this city. Right. Banko Brown is a victim. And what that video did was exonerate Banko Brown as the sweet, humane, dignified person that Banko Brown was. And many people, even though we know that she contaminated this investigation on May 1st when she said it's clearly self-defense, we've all seen that video. No way did Banko ever have the upper hand on that security guard. No way. And so you can't pick who is a victim. That's the thing. And we want Brooke to DA Jenkins to prosecute. And we have to continue to fight. And our second recourse is for the California Attorney General or the U.S. Department of Justice. Now, we know that these are like shots in the dark, but this is all we got. Right. This is all we got. So before we start speaking, I've asked Valerie Tullier to come up and kind of just bless this space because like this is our George Floyd, this is our Trayvon Martin case here. The vigilantism of homeless being sprayed with pepper spray, to Walgreens security guards, to so many events, it is a problem. It's a problem. The water hose event is a problem in the city, and we have to come back to our moral compass, San Francisco. I don't care. I mean, theft is bad, and we all get very irritated at theft, but we cannot kill anyone. Death over candy cannot be the way. No. This cannot be the way. And I also want to say is that every time you say Banko Brown, you say alleged shoplifting. Banko Brown did not get due process. Banko Brown, you have to go to a judge to have charges filed. Okay? So make sure you say that. Do not make it a definitive Banko stole, because the definitive will never happen. All right, I'm going to give Valerie Tullier from the Latino Task Force. And I want to know that I have Democratic clubs from all around San Francisco. This is not a black issue. This is not an LGBT issue. This is a San Francisco humanitarian issue.
That's right. That's right. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for honoring me to come and speak. I'm going to bring my granddaughter and Kriya and her daughter up here, please, to honor the First Nations of this land. We stand on the Muwekma Ohlone land here in San Francisco, and we're asking their spirits to join us today, to protect you today as you speak up for justice. My name is Valerie Tullier. I am Mexican, Apache, and Puerto Rican, and I am with the Latino Task Force. In the indigenous way, all lives matter. All lives matter, including the two-spirited. Banko was two-spirited. They hold a sacred space in our communities. And so we're here to honor Banko. We're here to honor his humanity. Today, we are asking a system that was created to criminalize each of us as people of color, to criminalize our ancestors. We are demanding that that system now work for us. Do the right thing. Don't pick and choose who you can convict and not convict, who you can send to prison and not send to prison. You understand? And that security guard was probably one paycheck away from being just as poor as many of us. And we get played. We get played. But right today, we're asking for justice for Banko. So I would just like to ask that we have the sage lit, please, and we're just going to go around to bless each other. It's not going to hurt you, okay? It smells different if you're not used to it. But what the sage does, it cleans out the negative energy and bring out the positive energy, because what you're doing is the right thing. So thank you to the ancestors of this land. Thank you to our elders over here, and thank you to our youth. And she is absolutely right. This belongs to the people of this land who know how to honor or respect humanity such as each and every one of you. Thank you, and may the ancestors bless you today in your struggle. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so now I want to call up Supervisor Dean Preston.
All right. Yes, please. Watch your feet, Val. Watch your feet. I don't want
Oops. Sorry.
I want to say, as Supervisor Dean Preston comes up, is that when Banko passed, I called Dean Preston at late at night, and I said, Dean, we have to change the charter. We have to work on Article 25 of the police code that governs armed security guards of when they can even pull their gun out the holster. Right now, the article says you can pull your gun out the holster if you feel a threat from persons or property. And property should never be a reason to pull a gun. That's right. And when I talked to Dean and Dean staffer, Melissa, they were all on it. Even when I started getting nervous, like, can we get it passed? And Dean pushed for it. So I just want to just thank Dean for just being the true gladiator that we need in this fight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And the change to the local law, and thank you, Jeffrey, for all your work on that. It's kind of unconscionable that we have a local law that says you get to draw a security card, can draw a weapon to protect person or property. That's crazy, right? That is crazy. We're talking about essentially allowing a death penalty for shoplifting.
Right.
We're better than that. At least I hope we are. But that's just, look, that is the least of it, changing the law. And of course we're going to do that, and happy to partner with you on that. But it is kind of incredible that we are where we are right now in this case. And I'm glad that you're all here and gathered at the district attorney's office to send a clear message. Let me just start by extending my condolences to Banko Brown's family and friends and loved ones and everyone, all of us who are grieving. And it's going to take a long time. But your collective activism has already impacted the accountability and justice in this case. You have already been standing together and starting to deliver justice for Banko Brown. But justice starts with truth.
Right.
Justice starts with truth. And truth has been in short supply when it comes to the killing of Banko Brown. So we got to talk about the truths that you all know about this city, about the intense, often masked, but increasingly unmasked anti-blackness and anti-trans bias and hate in this city that we're seeing play out in attacks and bear macing of homeless people, of attacks on folks profiling people who are shopping, and in this worst case scenario, shooting and killing someone. And we don't know for what, as Jeffrey said. I'm a little tired of hearing what Banko was shot for by people who don't even know, I don't have a clue about what happened. What I saw in a video was someone attacked, punched, thrown to the ground, pinned to the ground, and then went in retreat getting shot and killed. That's what I know.
That's what I saw. Talk about it.
But I don't need to talk about the truth around the anti-blackness at every level in this city, because folks here can speak more directly and personally to that. I'm going to talk about the truth of this case. District Attorney announced that this was a clear case of self-defense. Okay? That was a lie.
Absolutely.
A bold-faced lie. You all came to the Board of Supervisors and said, supervisors, take action. We are demanding release of videotapes. My colleague, District 10 Supervisor Shaman Walton, listened to those calls and issued a letter of inquiry formally from the Board of Supervisors and said, District Attorney, release the tapes. released the video. Then we got bold-faced lie number 2, which was a condescending letter back to Supervisor Walton, former president of the Board of Supervisors, telling him he didn't understand because he's not a licensed attorney in the state. I'm sorry, but being a licensed attorney sure as hell does not give you the exclusive knowledge about what is true and right.
Right.
Well, that letter said that the district attorney could not ethically release videotapes. It would compromise the investigation. If he was an attorney, of course he would have known that. Citing a state law saying, I cannot release video in this context. Well, of course, the state law, which we all read, says no such thing. So that was a lie in writing to the Board of Supervisors and to the community, saying that the district attorney could not release a video, the very video that she was saying so clearly showed that this was a clear case of self-defense. So that was a lie. We discovered that was a lie because she released the videotape under pressure from all of you and a huge cross-section of the community. She released that videotape on Monday and still dug in with yet another lie. She said there is nothing that refutes the security guard's statement that he was acting in self-defense to protect his life. I'm sorry, there was nothing to refute that.
Right.
There's something to refute that. It's called a videotape.
That's right.
So I, for one, am sick of the lies in this case. Justice starts with the truth in this case. We don't know what is going on with this district attorney, of why she is repeating lie after lie and refusing to treat this like other cases. And I think we are certainly at the point where we need intervention from the state attorney general and the Department of Justice to figure out what is happening here. So I'm going to just close by saying this. Thank you all so much for continuing to turn up the pressure. And don't let people make you feel in any way like you should not be shouting into the microphones. If you want to curse at the Board of Supervisors, be my guest. If you want to curse at the district attorney, be my guest. There are times and there are moments when the outrage bubbles over, when people need to be heard, and when we need our leaders, especially our district attorney, to start acting like leaders, stop perpetuating the anti-blackness in this city, and to deliver justice. So thank you all so much. Justice for Banko Brown.
So, not only after hearing what happened to Banko Brown did I contact Supervisor Preston, I called immediately Dr. Reverend Amos C. Brown of the NAACP. And I called Reverend Brown not only to get the NAACP involved, but also I know that we needed to unite the black community in San Francisco. I saw my LGBT brothers and sisters out there fighting the fight without all of us. And it needed to be a whole black community.
That's right.
Okay, that means black clergy, black LGBT, black leaders, neighborhood leaders. You know I come out the Baby Hunters Point neighborhood. So we had to all come together because harm to any of us is harm to all of us. And Reverend Brown said, we got to do something. He said, get on this call, Jaffria, talk to the board members because we're going to make it happen. And you can say whatever you want. When you down and out, this is the man you're going to look for. And Reverend Brown, I thank you so much.
All right.
Dr. Brown!
My friends,
Come on.
I'm here today because I heard that a human being was murdered because a security guard had reacted. Reacted for what? Because Banko supposedly, stole something. stole something.
Worth his life.
And you're right. It was not worth his life. But just let us deal with stealing.
Say that. Come on.
Say it again.
Our ancestors
That's right.
were stolen from Mother Africa.
That's right.
Speak
the truth.
Stolen to come here to this country
That's right.
against our will. That was a crime against our humanity.
Come on.
Yes.
And if the truth be told, down to this very second, in the city and county of San Francisco, in this state and nation, they are still assaulting, insulting, and stealing our humanity.
That's right. Every day.
So that we want to set the record straight that this city is guilty of a crime.
That's right.
A crime of neglect.
Yes.
A crime of injustice.
Yes.
A crime of exclusionary politics.
Absolutely.
A crime of downright meanness.
Yes.
For it didn't happen by accident that this black population has been decimated from 16%
Come on.
now down to 3.9 to 4%. Shame, shame on San Francisco.
Yes.
It happened because of that crime.
Yes.
Again, that was committed against our humanity.
That's right.
Secondly, I wish to say that this was an unnecessary violent act and loss of life.
Yes. Yes.
And the NAACP that was founded in 1909 in response to that terrible race riot in Springfield, Illinois, in August and September of 1908. Why were we founded? Because again, there was a crime, there was violence against our humanity when a lie was told that a black man raped a white woman.
That's right. That's right.
I say to you, number three, as we stand this day, this justice arm of this nation, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, feels that there must be a complete investigation
Yes.
Yes.
by the law enforcement agencies of the city,
Definitely.
of the state,
Yes.
and of this nation.
That's right. Yes.
Yes.
Finally, I want to say I'm here more importantly because Banko was one of my sheep.
That's right.
At a tender age, a young age,
24.
she was in the Cradle Road Department at Third Baptist Church. Miss Cynthia Woods was a Sunday school teacher. And as a shepherd who's concerned about his sheep, I stand here today to say that this shepherd knows his sheep. And that's why I stand for this family. I stand here with Attorney Morris because her dad and I came from the same state, from the state of Mississippi. And we learned how to fight down there. We knew how to stand
Yes.
in the face of injustice.
That's right.
And we were never scared to speak up,
That's right.
to speak out in the defense of justice, in defense of inclusion, in defense of equality, in the defense of simple human dignity. God bless you all for coming. Let's stay together, hang together, and not rest until justice rolls down like waters
For Banko
and
Brown.
righteousness as an ever-flowing stream for Banko Brown.
Thank you.
Justice for Banko Brown. Justice for Banko Brown.
So, you know, justice is handled in so many different ways. One way we got justice is the video. That is one step of justice. I want to call up Honey Mahogany, but I see also members of the family. I want to recognize members of the family of Banko. I don't want them to be bombarded with media unless they want to be bombarded with media, but I want to know that I see you. And afterwards, we'll talk even more because I've already been working with another member of the family. But we are one Black community, and we're going to make sure that we give Banko the proper home going. And I'm just letting you know. And if, whenever you want to speak, just tap my shoulder, okay? I want to call up Honey Mahogany, chair of the Democratic Central Committee, to speak.
All right, honey.
Thank you, everyone. I know that we're all heartbroken here today. Specifically for the trans community, you know, this has been a very, very tough few years. Yep. And it's been a very, very tough few years for the Black community as well. We all remember what happened the summer of 2020, when there were Black Lives Matter marches all across this country and people were paying attention. Well, I don't know what's happened recently. I guess people went back to work. The pandemic came to an end. Business went on as usual. But we have had our own moment here in San Francisco, where someone who allegedly was shoplifting $14 worth of food because they were homeless, because they were hungry, were attacked by us, physically attacked, not just stopped, but physically attacked by a security guard. And then as they were being backed out of the store, as they were walking out of the store, they were shot.
Yeah. Yep.
They were shot.
Out the store.
They were outside the store and they were shot. That is unacceptable to me.
Say that.
Yeah.
If there was a crime that was committed in terms of stealing, that is a big if, there was a greater crime, which was murder, that happened that day. That's what we need to be talking about. You know, with everything that's happening specifically for the LGBTQ community across this country, San Francisco and the state of California are supposed to be a sanctuary. I know legislators are working on sanctuary state legislation, you know, trying to create housing opportunities. But why are we calling trans people here if they can't be safe?
Right.
If our whole community can't be safe? If Black trans people cannot be safe?
Yes.
Now, what I want to see in San Francisco is that we are all treated the same, that we are all treated equally, that we all have equal protection under the law, that all of our lives have value. And I am not seeing that from this district attorney. Just a few weeks ago, there was an attack that happened where a fire commissioner was beaten in the face. It came out that that fire commissioner allegedly sprayed bear spray on this unhoused person, and that unhoused person reacted by beating him. And even though one of the DA handling of the case said, well, this is self-defense, I can't prosecute that, the DA, Brook Jenkins, came out and said, no, we're going to continue to prosecute the case anyway. So why is that case different from this case? Why is that case different from the case of Banko Brown?
Because Banko.
We need the law to be applied equally and equitably here in San Francisco. We are supposed to be a champion of equality, a safe space for all of our communities, whether you be Black, Brown, LGBTQ, it doesn't matter. We are supposed to be doing things right here, and right now, things aren't going right. So what I need is for everyone to wake up and say something, because we had all those protests for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. Well, add to that Banko Brown, because his life mattered as well. Say his name.
Banko Brown.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Now, I will call up a criminal justice warrior, Tanish Hollins, co-founder of SF Black Wall Street.
Come on.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of San Francisco Black Wall Street, we support the call that President Peskin made for the Attorney General and the U.S. DOJ to review the evidence in this case. We'd also ask that Ismail Ramsey, who is the U.S. Attorney for Northern California, also review the evidence in this case. It enrages me that the burden of proving this crime has fallen on the shoulders of the Black community, specifically in San Francisco, and the family of Banko Brown.
This is what happens every single time a black life is lost in San Francisco or a black body is harmed or killed. The first thing to happen is the identity of victim is erased. And then we are left to a public debate about whether or not this person's life was worth or worthy of justice. This is unacceptable.
Yes, it is.
Our city and our county has been asked our community specifically many, many times to build trust and faith in the system that has constantly and consistently failed to keep us safe and give us justice. When I think about the people and individuals that are involved in this incident, I wonder if that same notion fell on them. Since it's now become our responsibility to look at what happened, I'll share with you what many of us in the black community have been wondering and thinking. A black protective service worker who took the post of working at Market Street, one of the epicenters of poverty in this city, saturated with individuals who are experiencing and battling houselessness, addiction, mental illness. In an environment where a retailer, Walgreens, has flooded our media with stories about the impact of retail theft on an establishment that is protected by insurance.
Come on. Right.
Misinformation and fear-mongering about the rate of crime, where we can talk about stats being down. We know too many of our people in our city are still being harmed.
Come on.
But that fear-mongering has led society to view people who are houseless, and specifically black people, a certain type of way.
Yes. Say that. Yes, say it again.
This leads us to question what that interaction was with this black protective service worker and this young person, Banko Brown, when they walked into this Walgreens. And after viewing the video like everyone else did, I find it hard to believe that this unnecessarily violent physical contact that took place between Banko and the protective service worker. Not only was it unnecessary, but how is it possible to not feel the anatomy of the petite frame? I wonder if the lesson was about more than just stealing from a Walgreens.
Yes.
So the question that we are begging is, what needs to happen next? What needs to happen next is that the burden of calling for justice needs to be taken off of our shoulders. There are prosecutors not only in this city but across the state that stood when we marched, stood when we called attention to the black lives that were taken. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and everyone else. And a lot of those voices are silent right now.
That's right.
So we are demanding that you demonstrate your solidarity. We are demanding that you demonstrate the value and worth of black lives by standing up and holding this system and every other system accountable for doing right by black people, specifically black trans people in this city. Because we know that the level of violence that they experience is constantly and perpetuated in every system there is, not just through the criminal justice system. And that transfers down to all this. I hate that this situation has become so politicized, because that young person's life is worth more. I hate that this has become a conversation about whether or not someone needs to do their job. And it's been all of our responsibility to hold them accountable for doing that. But we're not going anywhere until it happens. Justice for Banko Brown. Justice for every black life in this city. Justice for every unhoused person in this city. Justice for our young people. And peace and healing to all of us, and specifically to the family of Banko Brown.
So pulling this together, I mean, we all work, many of us, deep in community, and we form strong alliances with community people. And I want to bring up SF Rising. SF Rising has just been amazing. We're helping me get the flyer out. We got the ACLU here. It's because this is one San Francisco. This is not a black issue. This is not a trans issue or LGBT. This is a humanitarian issue. I continue to tell you that, is that you cannot tolerate people dying over candy. Nope. What kind of city is this? What kind of state is this? So I want to call up Sally from SF Rising.
Thank you, Jafria. My name is Sally Tamayo Lee. I am co-director at San Francisco Rising. I am a queer, non-binary organizer, also born and raised in the city. What DA Brook Jenkins is doing with Banko Brown's case is a pattern of behavior that I think Honey Mahogany spoke so well of, that we need to hold her accountable for. She actually ran on a platform that she would prioritize victims of violence. But her record in office has demonstrated that she will not prioritize victims of police violence or vigilante violence, like in the case of Banko Brown. She does not consider their cases deserving of due justice. And this has already been true for Keita O'Neill and Sean Moore, whose families have court hearings this Friday and next Friday, respectively. She wants to drop charges against the murderers who killed these 3 unarmed black men, including Banko Brown, sending the message that security guards and police can walk away with impunity for murder in our communities. These families should not have to ask the California Attorney General to bring justice for their children. DA Brook Jenkins needs to do her job. She must be held accountable for the families she's failed, and that starts with Banko Brown. Let's keep organizing till justice is won. The mayor's budget is going to be released June 1st, and let's ensure that that has resources for our unhoused community and brothers and sisters, our LGBTQ relatives, and everyone here today. Thank you.
We want prosecution!
And I want to just add, before I call the next speaker, is that I would be remiss if I don't really highlight black trans males. We need real resources for black trans male services. Banko Brown was a black trans male, and so many times we give money for the whole group of LGBT, but what we've been hearing since Banko's death is that black male trans males are being ignored and having it harder. We also heard that Banko had to sleep on the bar. Was unhoused. So we need to really, as we march, as we advocate for mayor resources and stuff, make sure that we highlight black trans males and resources in here. And so I want to call up one of my first Democratic clubs to really just step in there. They had a wonderful panel last night that featured me to Harvey Milk, really in the spirit of Harvey Milk. I mean, you're really doing the work of Harvey Milk. Harvey Milk Democratic Club has been really leading the force in the LGBT Democratic space, and I thank you for that. Come on up, Jeffrey, the president.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. We had a panel yesterday demanding justice. We wanted the DA to come out, stop misleading the public, stop telling us lies, stop unilaterally deciding not to prosecute before the facts are out there, before they've released their footage. She's already announced that they're not going to prosecute. That is absolutely unacceptable. On the same day that Banko was shot, we sent our second letter to the Attorney General asking for him to intervene in the Keita O'Neill case. That case, that 42-year-old unarmed black man was shot in the streets of San Francisco in 2017. The family filed a federal case in 2018, has received a huge civil payout from the city. And yet the DA still, in 2023, still has not decided whether or not to pursue criminal charges against that SFPD officer. Where is the outrage? A few weeks ago, Honey Mahogany, the SF Democratic Party chair, led the trans march. Thousands of San Franciscans came out marching to protest against the anti-trans laws that are being passed in Tennessee and Idaho. There are teens out there that are calling trans organizations in SF every day now, asking how can we come escape, find refuge in San Francisco like so many gay men before them. Now we have trans kids coming, knocking at our doors, and we can't even keep our own trans kids safe, housed. They're just asking for a home. They want to find a place to belong, and we can't even give them a place where they can call home. That's unacceptable. I know there are other API folks here, Asian American Pacific Islander folks here. We want to help shoulder your burden. We are here to learn. We want to hear your stories. We want to bring those stories back to our communities. I was born and raised in Chinatown. We want to build those bridges so we can help you. We can be brothers in fighting for equal rights and demanding action from this district attorney. Thank you so much.
So But simultaneously, the other Democratic club that I call and really is in the fight always for black and brown issues is the Latino Democratic Club, Kevin Ortiz. And it's so warm to see everybody, black, white, Jewish, gay, lesbian, straight, transgender, gender non-conforming, old, young, because this is a San Francisco thing. And San Francisco moral things. What is your moral compass? So, Kevin, I thank you always for being my partner in crime. And please, here you go.
Thank you, Joffrey. And I just want to say, the San Francisco Latinx Democratic Club first wants to hold Banko Brown's family in our hearts. And as a community and as a club, we stand firm in our resolve to demand true accountability and justice for Banko. I want to bring up something really quickly. We talk about, Brooke talks about how she wants to center victims. But where's the centering Banko's family in this case? She wanted to center victims for someone who was mentally ill, who killed his mother, and prosecuting, throwing the book out. But meanwhile, she's not doing anything in this case. After she corrupted it, after she basically delegitimized the entirety of the case.
Speak on it.
Banko Brown was not a danger to anyone. They were retreating after being assaulted by over $15 worth of candy. No amount of candy or corporate loss warranted the loss of Banko's life.
Right.
I will say, though, the real danger is behind us. Allowing Brook Jenkins to continue targeting our most vulnerable communities of color with tough on crime policies while letting murderers walk free.
Come on.
If they're tools of the police state or a corporation like Walgreens.
Come on. Sure, that's right.
Jenkins is the first Latina district attorney. This should be a step forward. Instead, she is far more dangerous to black, brown, and trans communities than she is an ally.
Right.
But the blame is not just on the DA, nor on Walgreens. It's on the city leadership who have helped create the economic conditions that caused Banko to be homeless, to be stealing candy in order to survive. It's on the city officials who have allowed our housing crisis to worsen over the decades, resulting in Banko Brown being one of the 50% of LGBTQ youth who experience homelessness, who suffer from the traumas of the street, violence and poverty, and experience high rates of suicide. This is on London Breed. This is on Willie Brown. This is on our governor. This is on the ruling class that have reigned over the city for decades and have allowed poverty to run rampant in our communities, while advocating for more funding for police, security, and corporate giveaways, making our communities truly unsafe. If Jenkins won't prosecute, she needs to resign. If she won't, community needs to start prepping for a people's recall when eligible in January. We deserve better. Banko Brown deserves better.
Yes. Thank you.
Justice for Banko Brown.
Justice for Banko Brown.
Justice for Banko Brown.
Justice for Banko Brown.
So I want to also call up the Rose Pack Democratic Club. Big allies fighting for what's right. We need to understand what is right and what is wrong. And I'm so proud that Rose Pack signed on Democratic Club to be a part of this. Come up, Jeremy.
Good morning, everyone. I first want to acknowledge the anger and pain and frustration that everyone is feeling. But I want to remind everyone that what will get us through this is love. So, in that spirit, I want to invoke one of my mentors, the Reverend Norman Fong. So I want everyone to look to your right, look to your left, and tell the person next to you, you are beautiful.
You are beautiful.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Lee, and I am Vice President of the Rose Pack Democratic Club. The Rose Pack Democratic Club is appalled by the killing of Banko Brown and strongly disagrees with District Attorney Brook Jenkins' decision not to prosecute the security guard for the April 27th shooting. The people of San Francisco elected DA Jenkins in order to change our criminal justice system, focus on victims, and make our city safer. Instead, DA Jenkins has made clear that our justice system is unwilling to provide justice to our city's most vulnerable, that property matters more than the value of human life, and that individuals can lawfully commit murder under the guise of self-defense.
Come on.
What does the city of St. Francis stand for if we refuse to provide equal justice under the law for all? We stand in solidarity with the Black community, the trans community, and many of our elected officials in their calls for an independent review by the California Attorney General's Office and U.S. Department of Justice. Our dear Auntie Rose was a force in San Francisco who advocated relentlessly for the Chinese community and did so with the support of the Black community and the LGBT community. She demonstrated that our city can make tremendous strides if our communities work together and support each other.
Yes.
To continue her legacy, RPDC stands with our marginalized communities and stands against injustice. As Dr. Martin Luther King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I have Yoli here from the ACLU. Yoli from the, I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Yoel, I'm so sorry, Yoel.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Yoel Hyla. I'm the director of the Criminal Justice Program at the ACLU of Northern California. We are here to be in solidarity with the family of Banko Brown and his loved ones and our community. This is an outrageous and devastating tragedy. We are holding you close in our hearts and we are grieving with you. Banko's death was totally unnecessary and unavoidable. Alleged petty theft should never be a death sentence anywhere. The current rhetoric about cracking down on poor people and store-related thefts has helped create a climate that led to Banko's death.
Come on.
Instead of making a spectacle of poverty and the suffering of our neighbors and our people, San Francisco policymakers should work with urgency to meet the basic needs of all of our neighbors.
Yes.
Food, shelter, clothing, education, employment, all the things that would have prevented Banko's death in the first place. We can end this climate and the conditions where someone can get killed for allegedly trying to steal $14 worth of candy.
Yes.
This is shameful. Real justice would have been if Banko was still alive with us.
Come on.
If he was never put in a position to be unhoused or to be hungry. That is real justice. But now we are here left to deal with the tragedy of his death. We reiterate our support to the family of Banko Brown and his loved ones, and we stand with you in solidarity on your journey to healing. Thank you.
Yes.
I think I have one more Democratic Club. Is someone here from the Young Democrats to speak? If not, I'm going to call up some of these youth activists. Umari Keith will be accompanied by the Mentarosa sister, Sean Mentarosa sister, who was killed by Vallejo police. They, like, all of this is triggering. Like, my brother was killed by San Pablo police. And when you see, it's whether it's the police or armed security guards, it still feels the same.
Yep.
And I wanna highlight San Francisco PD, because San Francisco detectives found probable cause to arrest the security guard. San Francisco police did their job.
Right.
Who would think that? We sitting here, San Francisco police, that's why Chief Scott can't say anything about the case, because his detectives know that this is murder.
Right.
That's why he was arrested. It is the DA who has the conflicting idea that it was self-defense. And I wanna also, before I let the youth kind of speak, is that we've heard many times, oh, the security guard was black. So was the 5 black officers that beat up Tyreek Noel today.
Yeah.
So I don't it doesn't absolve you because you're a black DA.
Amen.
It doesn't absolve you because you're black police. A harm to anybody black have to face the consequences of prosecution. And you don't get a get out of jail free card. But apparently in this city, our DA picks who gets to get out of jail free card, who is the designated victim and who's not the designated victim. And that's not an equal application of law. So I'm gonna bring Umari and her team. Umari will be speaking. It's because they've been out there almost every day, and I see some more of them over here that has been out here exhausted fighting for justice. Umari.
Thank you. Hey y'all. Yeah, I mean, we all know why we're here today, and it's a lot of things that have already been said. And yeah, I just want to talk a little bit more. So I wrote it down because if I cry some tears, I want y'all to know that those tears are for somebody who's just like me, probably. I never personally got to meet Banko, but I know a lot of people who are very close to him. So yeah, I'm here today because I'm enraged, and I'm truthfully pissed off. When I first heard about what happened to Banko, the first thing that came to my mind is how easily this story could have been my own.
Come on.
I didn't know him personally, but as a young black queer youth growing up in San Francisco, I think we've had a lot of the same experiences. Right. I was fortunate enough for part of my life to grow up in a two-parent household where my parents were both working and making money. And unfortunately, that didn't stop me from experiencing a lot of the same things that Banko probably also experienced in this city. Because of that, I did what I had to do to not be a further burden on my parents. If I had to steal something, that I was stealing that because I needed to survive. Yeah, it meant survival. So if this happened to me in the predicaments that I grew up in, I can just imagine what Banko could have been going through. I think of how so many youth in San Francisco experience the same problem continuously. Day after day, situation after situation, black and brown people are forced to figure out their own survival in this city. And we are constantly criminalized for it. We are losing more and more people every day. I graduated from high school in 2018. And since then, I've lost an uncle to suicide, a best friend to overdose, multiple friends and family to homicide. The list could go on. The youth in San Francisco are constantly having to grieve the people closest to them. But y'all expect us to go to college, to join the workforce. Right. How are we supposed to do any of that when we don't have access to the things that we need, to the basic human necessities?
Say that. Right.
The city of San Francisco continuously puts the burden on us to do better, when the truth is that there isn't a better as long as the majority of us are suffering.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing we have done in life as young people should have led to us dying. Nothing Banko have done in his young life should have led to him dying.
Exactly.
Banko should still be here today. I know it's a strong belief that access to things like housing, food, and more things will help change. But the truth is, if we don't deal with the root of the problem, then youth in San Francisco will never get to live the lives they deserve.
That part.
Give our youth access to mental health care, to therapists, to the organizations like the Young Women's Freedom Center who was here supporting Banko.
Yeah.
Give money to those people, to the people who are down here doing the hands-on work. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
A human life needs more than just access to basic human necessities that we all need. Our young black queer youth need it the most.
Come on.
To the mayor and to the DA, I know you have a lot of eyes watching you, and the most important set of those eyes I want y'all to remember is the youth.
That part.
Banko was a youth, his friends are youth, and those youth have been out here day after day speaking and fighting for their friend who can no longer do that for himself. Can you imagine losing your friend, your brother, your partner so young and not being able to grieve? Our youth are out here fighting for justice. The youth are telling you today that we will no longer accept the answer that you can't or that you won't. We know that you can, and since you can, we will keep applying pressure until you do. Because Banko's life is more than just what happened to him.
Right.
This system had failed Banko long before he stepped foot in that Walgreens.
Come on.
The last thing I want to say is to listen to the people who are closest to Banko. Listen to his friends, his chosen family. There are a lot of people who are coming with their own struggles and political messages. But I want y'all to know that the people who truly know what justice for Banko looks like were the people who he dealt with every day.
Come on.
And to his friends, I know there's a lot of youth out here today, so to the people who knew him the closest. A lot of people will try to tell you that you don't know anything. They will try to make you feel like because of your age that you are ignorant. But remember that all the strong movements that actually made change in the world were led by people who look like me and you, and who were the same age as us too. You know exactly what you're talking about, and you know exactly what justice looks like. Keep making San Francisco listen to you. Keep demanding justice for your friend. Keep letting them know that you will not rest because your friend's life was not disposable at all. I promise y'all that y'all got all of us behind you too. Now I wanted to end with one quote from Audre Lorde. If you know, you know. Now, and this is specifically for the youth too, because I think from our experiences, when you struggle with fear and you think that people will not accept your words, will not understand. But anyways, the quote is, when I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid.
That's right. Come on.
And I'm going to end all that by saying justice for Banko Brown.
I want to highlight the Young Women's Freedom Center. They have been just leading this fight the whole time. It's been death threats. It's been all type of stuff for that organization that loved on Banko and first started the fight for justice for Banko Brown. And I was glad to step in this week and kind of alleviate some of that pain and pressure from them, because this is an ongoing fight. It is not going to end today. We're going to be fighting for justice for Banko Brown probably for the next 2 years. But my last speaker is Pamela Tate with Black Women Revolt. And Black Women Revolt is the organization that I co-sponsor. Pam and I are co-executive directors because we saw the need for victim services for Black victims. Black victims are constantly being ignored. We started off first focusing on domestic violence victims, and now we've moved over to helping all Black victims of crime. Pamela will speak, but this is a need. I talk about Black trans services, Black victim services. We saw that gap and we stepped in. Pamela.
Thank you, Jeffrey, my comrade. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I have a jumble of things to say, and I probably won't. I do want to say we started off this movement with Black Women Revolt with domestic violence, and it quickly evolved into justice. Justice for youth, justice for adults, justice in court systems, justice in family protective services. We are nowhere done. We are constantly expanding. We are here for victims. We are here for survivors. We like to use the word survivors. When we pass over, we become survivors. And I want to send condolences to the Banko Brown family. I want to thank everybody for being here and standing in unity against the system that is currently hurting humanity. We are so much more than what we are experiencing right now. I think the politicians who are coming forward, I thank Mahogany for the work that she's doing, the Democratic clubs that have come together, of course, the Young Women's Center, the DV people who are out here as well representing the community. Thank the community. Thank the churches. Thank you to Reverend Amos. Thank you to the NAACP. I thank everybody for being here because, again, this is about humanity. This is a life. This was a life cut short. And we need to remember that. This is not about politics. This is about people. This is about Banko. And it could be about you.
Okay, why don't you introduce yourself?
Brenda Barrows. I'm a member of SEIU 1021 and union activist.
You're here today at the office of Brooks Jenkins. What is she doing?
Well, I don't know what she's doing. All I know is Sean Moore is dead. She's not doing anything about that. What happened to Banko is outrageous. You know, hunger should not be a death sentence in San Francisco. And apparently, it's becoming a death sentence in San Francisco for blacks.
And the mayor has defended her. Why is that?
Because I think the mayor can't admit that she made a mistake, screwed up, and put her in. So she can't go back on her decision. So, you know, it's impacting her too, I'm sure. You know, the negativity is impacting her. I'm sure it is. But, you know, at some point, you have to stand up for what's right. Even if it goes against some politician you put in place.
And are you in favor of a recall of Brooke Jenkins?
I'm definitely want her voted out. That's what I want. I didn't think she should have gotten voted in, but we definitely want her voted out. And that's where I think the energy needs to go.
And why is the San Francisco Labor Council supporting more money for the police?
Well, you know, unfortunately, the police have a lot of influence on. They have a lot of influence on labor.
Reverend Brown. Hello. Where's my dog?
Telling him how.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, my name is Jeremiah Rushing. I was raised here in the city, particularly in the Tenderloin, and I grew up a little bit in the Upper Mission. I was telling my boy right here that the same thing had happened down in LA to this 15-year-old girl. Her name was Latasha Harlan, who was accused of stealing a small little orange juice. But she had the money, and when she turned around, she got shot in the back of her head. And then the judge didn't want to do anything. It's the same thing that's going on right here. You feel me? And so...
Killing for property.
Exactly. Like, you shouldn't get a death sentence for stealing like a small little juice, you know? So the judge didn't want to prosecute. And so the black community was enraged, and they burned down the whole Koreatown. So if the DA doesn't want to see that happen, I suggest, because people, like I told him, the author Toni Morrison, the people waited. They waited, and then they waited, which meant they had the patience to see if the justice system would do something. And so the justice system didn't want to serve the people's needs and protect them.
Who's the justice system serving?
The justice is serving bourgeois capitalists, okay, who rob workers' surplus value, okay, and hoard it all to themselves and don't give it back, okay.
Sounds like San Francisco.
Exactly.
The billionaires are doing good here.
Exactly. There should not be not one billionaire. A billionaire is not working that hard. That's robbery, okay? So Walgreens is it's a big corporation, you feel me? And $15 is nothing, okay? Like, I've slept on BART trains before, and people can't even like fathom putting themselves in someone else's shoes. Like, they don't even comprehend how someone could become homeless. You feel me?
So why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is J.R. Valray, the Minister of Information. I'm the editor of the San Francisco Bayview newspaper.
So this murder of Banko Brown, supposedly for stealing, I mean, it seems like it's getting to be a regular occurrence here in San Francisco.
Well, I think that it's a regular occurrence, definitely. There's crimes against a lot of poor people. They're trying to blame the financial collapse of San Francisco on poor people and theft, which is a whole bunch of BS. But you also know that there's an anti-black and anti-homeless campaign by people in vigilantes in San Francisco, as well as the city government. You had the fire chief, who was beer mason, homeless people. You had Shannon Collier, who was an art gallery owner, who was water hosing a homeless woman during an atmospheric storm. So, you know, San Francisco is I'm definitely seeing an increase in crimes against black people and impoverished people. It's definitely been an uptick in the last 6 months.
And Brook Jenkins was supported by a billionaire, set up a nonprofit for her, and then she ran for office. She didn't let people know that she was being paid by this nonprofit. You think she's corrupt?
Well, I don't know if you call it corrupt, because I think that she's doing the job that the state does against poor and black people, and what it has always done. So, I mean, corrupt on paper, I can hear what you're saying, because they're supposed to be doing justice by the people and making stuff, applying laws fairly. She's not doing that, but she is historically doing what the state does, which is have an anti-black agenda, have an anti-poor agenda. I mean, that's what the capitalist United States of America was set up to do, and that's what it's always been doing. Right now, we just fighting for a little room to breathe.
And gentrification, black people, brown people are being kicked out of San Francisco. You have in Hunters Point, developers are coming in. It seems like the developers and the banks really run San Francisco.
I definitely agree. I mean, I definitely agree when you realize that there are 63 billionaires in the borders of San Francisco, not millionaires, but billionaires in the borders of San Francisco, but homelessness is rampant. You know, everything is collapsing financially, but you got 63 billionaires. Their taxes alone should be taking care of a lot of stuff. But we see what's going on. It's a paradise for the rich. It's a hell for the poor. It's a hell for the black community, which has been basically, like you said, gentrified from at its height, where it was in its 16%. Now it's at 3%. What's ironic about the situation, you have a black mayor, you have a black police chief, you have a black DA, you have a black security guard, and you still can't get justice for black people. That says a lot about the power of the system and the power of the check that they're checking these people with, and they're doing their bidding for them. So, we're the Bayview newspaper, me, myself, we're going to stand behind Banko Brown and other people that are murdered by vigilantes or abused by vigilantes, which is becoming more common in San Francisco, and people that are murdered by the state. So, justice for Banko Brown.
And the CNN just did a thing about homelessness, people homeless in San Francisco, but the corporate media don't seem to pay attention to the fact that there are these billionaires in San Francisco, and you have thousands of empty flats, condos, luxury condos right here in San Francisco.
Right, and I think that, well, it's a billionaire's paradise. The question is, who does San Francisco work for? The billionaires. I mean, when you look at Getty Images or the Gettysburg Address, and know that the Gettys live here. You know, it's a lot of money in San Francisco. A lot of money in San Francisco. The point is just that it's getting veered off to the same people, and the masses of the people are not getting the money. And that's why you see rampant homelessness when you are in the midst of one of the richest cities in the world. And so, again, I think that the DA is doing the bidding for her corporate puppet masters and financial puppet masters, and I think
that's why she was put in place, to do that job.
I mean, they recalled Chesa Bodine, who was putting a microscope on some of the issues that the police were dealing with, or some of the issues that the police were committing against the community, and when they recalled her, she had an agenda, or recalled Chesa, she saw the agenda, which was, you're not supposed to be defending the poor, you're not supposed to be defending black people, you're not supposed to be defending people that the police are going against. And she's taking that job real serious, and black, poor is who suffer.
You think she should be recalled?
I definitely think we need to do I think we need to do our duty as the community to recall her, because if not, we don't know what kind of unsafe terrain we will be walking into blindly. I mean, you're catching stuff on tape with this woman, and we can't get it. And on photo, I mean, you got the water hosing, we got the photo, you got the tape of the beer macer, you got the tape of the murder of Banko Brown. You can't even get anybody, to get arrested or called up on some serious charges. So I think we need to do what we can, do what little power we have as the community in this case. We need to recall her in the long run, and we need to fight for justice for Banko Brown.
So you were talking about the structural system that is being the problem. I'm KPOO, Steve Seltzer with KPOO.
Got it.
Why don't you introduce yourself and go into more depth about what is the structural problem?
Yeah, Kevin Ortiz, San Francisco Latinx Democratic Club co-president. Some of the structural issues that have been going on for decades, right? Particularly with the lack of affordable housing that's been built, regulation around our housing market, corporate giveaways for real estate particularly, right? And that influence really putting the pressure down on low-income communities, right? Or
gentrification.
But really as an exodus, right, of, black and brown and trans folks not being able to live and afford to live within San Francisco, right? And so not having the resources being able to really catch those folks as they're falling, right? And so that in itself has created a problem where our income inequality is now that of Rwanda, right? Where we have the average Latino family of 4 in the mission making $44,000 a year, right? And yet we have 80 billionaires and 150,000 millionaires prior to the pandemic, right? And so while we've seen an exodus of, you know, some of these millionaires leaving, right, the income inequality is still so stark where no one can afford to live here now. And with the eviction crisis where 7 out of 10 folks were once had roofs over their heads that are San Francisco natives, putting them onto the street because they can't be able to afford to live like their rents, that in itself causes those structural issues where, you know, at that point, you know, the police state really is able to move in on them, and it causes situations like this.
And I mean, it seems like the billionaires you're talking about, the developers, they're really running San Francisco. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and they've been running San Francisco since the early 2000s, really, right? Particularly under former mayor leadership, right? But we haven't had a progressive mayor since the 80s, right? And so, and only at one point in our, you know, our history of our city that we've had a progressive mayor, and that plays a role of the impact of not having moderate status quo policies that keep things the same.
I mean, it seems like it's there are national incidents of murders, attack on blacks, Latinos. I mean, there's a massive hysteria, racist hysteria against all kinds of minority people, and it seems like it's not ending.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we know that, you know, black trans people are most likely to be targeted by the police, right? To have police encounters, right? To experience homelessness, to experience suicide, right? And those are these are the folks that we're failing, right? When we don't have the structural policies to be able to catch them early on.
Well, San Francisco has a $14 billion budget.
Yeah.
Apparently, we can't keep the streets clean, and apparently, we can't keep the residents safe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and well, I mean, it's a lack of leadership, right? I mean, they say the budgets are a reflection of priorities, right? And there's not been a real priority to actually address the structural issues, the root causes of these things. That you know, because when we see police violence, it's really the end of you know, what we're seeing when it comes to state-sanctioned violence, right? And so, you know, we're putting money into, you know, expanding police budgets, but really we're not actually putting money into the preventive services that prevent homelessness, referrals, educational opportunities, employment opportunities, right? And we need to be addressing the root causes of these things in order to, and housing, of course.
Well, you have a black mayor in New York, choke murder of a person there. They're not, I mean, it seems like you talk about the system. Isn't that capitalism?
I mean, yeah, yeah, I would say so. I think, yeah, I mean, all the cities right now, I think, are experiencing, you know, this kind of reckoning, right? I was actually in New York the day before Jordan Neely was murdered, right? And, you know, on the subway, right? And watching the videos is heartbreaking, right? You know, a lot of these things are so much more preventable, right? But we know that, like, police respond to crime, right? They don't actually prevent it, right? And so if we want to prevent crime, we want to prevent murders by the state or by corporations, then we should invest in, you know, the structural issues.
And in San Francisco, you've got a large number, thousands of empty apartments. Yeah. I mean, you have all these buildings.
Yeah, 60,000 empty units right now.
Why aren't they being turned over to the homeless people?
Well, I mean, again, lack of leadership, right? I mean, the mayor could easily eminent domain those units, right? And then do it that way, right? But again, it's the willpower to do it.
Justice